Lesson 3. Contributory factors to the emergence of Dirayat al-Hadith. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma akhrijna min zulumatil wahm wa akrimna binuril fahm. Allahumma aftah alayna abwab rahmatik wanshur alayna khazaina ulumik birahmatika ya arhamar rahimin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Welcome to Lesson 3, Contributory Factors to the Emergence of Dirayat al-Hadith. In the previous lesson, we dealt with Dirayat al-Hadith and other disciplines of Hadith. On account of various reasons, unfortunately, some of which we shall mention shortly, the Hadith did not remain immune from forgery and other problems. A great number of incorrect traditions found way into collections of prophetic sayings. The task of separating genuine traditions from apocryphal material was as necessary as that of removing weeds from a flower bed. As in case of weeds, their identification and removal was not an easy task, nor could they be left to flourish untouched, threatening the genuine material itself. This was the reason why religious scholars, in their capacity as vigilant gardeners of the faith, began to look for ways of separating forged material from genuine hadith. They needed new tools for this task, which was not an easy one, as is evident from the fact that despite centuries of scholarly efforts, the remnants of these dangerous and destructive weeds have continued to survive. As to how these weeds found their way to the flower beds of prophetic tradition, here are some of the important reasons. 1. There were some who willfully sprinkled the seeds of such weeds and dedicatedly look after their growth and survival. Among them were supporters of Banu Umayyah and other groups within Islam who dissembled adherence to it. Number 2, emergence of various schools or madhahib in Islam led to forgeries by followers of different madhahib who wished to produce documentary evidence in favor of their own madhahib and to the detriment of their opponents. Fabrications made by the devout about virtues of piety and abstinence from evil, who imagined that by this means they would be better equipped to guide others. Number 4, inclusion of Jewish myths, a process which was stimulated by the popular sense of curiosity and the people's interest in the lives and times of former prophets. Such imaginative accounts are replete in narrations regarding the lives and deeds of prophets, such as the account related by At-Tabari on the authority of Ibn Munabbih. According to this account, the serpent formerly had hands and legs, but since it allowed the devil to enter its belly, God had made its limbs to sink into its stomach. Number 5, tribal and regional prejudices and rivalries, which incited some to forge traditions to be produced as evidence of their superiority over others, as is evident from traditions related to some cities. Number 6, personal ambition was another stimulant which prompted some to be included among the scholars of hadith through forgery. Number 7, fabrication of hadith as a means of procurement of personal gain or of earning goodwill of the caliph in power. Number 8. Controversies and differences among jurists or fuqaha prompted some scholars to fabricate traditions to be invoked in support of their own legal positions. Number 9. Storytellers and reciters of fables admittedly were not averse to letting their imagination wander into the domain of hadith. Due to the above mentioned and other reasons besides, a critical examination of hadith was necessary. As a result of the efforts made by Muslim scholars in this regard, a new branch was created in the science of hadith. It came to be called Dirayat al-Hadith. So one definition of Dirayat al-Hadith is that it is a science which investigates the isnad or chains of transmission, contents, subject, and the mode of transmission of a hadith, so that acceptable traditions can be separated from unacceptable ones. The emergence of the science of Dirayat al-Hadith was followed by its division into numerous branches, as mentioned also in the previous lesson. Certain rules and guidelines were evolved for distinguishing reliable from unreliable ahadith. The body of such rules came to be called Mustalahul Hadith, which together with Ilmul Rijal, literally science of men, formed the means of scrutinizing hadith material. However, for this purpose, knowledge of other preliminaries such as Arabic grammar and syntax, familiarity with literary style and form, knowledge of abrogated or mansukh and the abrogating or nasikh verses of the Quran, knowledge of the history of Islam and that of various schools of thought and their beliefs and other details regarding hadith is necessary. Hajj Khalifa or Khatib Shalabi, the celebrated Ottoman Turkish polymath and leading literary author of the 7th century Ottoman Empire, in his encyclopedic Kashfuz Zunun or the removal of doubts, defines Dirayat al-Hadith in this manner. The science of Dirayat al-Hadith, which discusses the content and meaning of the words of hadith on the basis of Arabic grammar and syntax and Shari'i criteria, and examines their correspondence with the circumstances of the Messenger of Allah, distinct linguistic standards of Arabic sciences and reports about the Messenger, consists of Ilmul Rijal. Take note, he included Ilmul Rijal as a sub-branch of Dirayat al-Hadith, or the science of narrators, their names, genealogical lineages, lifetimes, their dates of death, their characters and circumstances of reception and transmission of hadith, as well as its topic or subject, and aims to distinguish acceptable from unacceptable traditions. It entails classification of various modes of transmission, linguistic background of narrators, their remarks and criticism about what they have narrated, their connection with the prior source from whom they have received knowledge of possession of permission or ijaza by a narrator, and knowledge of various classifications of hadith, such as Sahih, Hasan, Da'if, etc. Next lesson, we will deal with a more elaborate classification of hadith, inshallah. For more similar lessons, subscribe to Wayfaring with Mansoor channel. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wabarakatuh.